Back now on Triad today, and I'm so glad to have these two very special guests with us. Now, on my immediate right, Isabel Coletti's project planner for Historic Resource Commission, and on the far right, our good friend, Pat Pate, City Manager, City of Winston-Salem, who you've seen on this show many times before. Good to see both of you.
Thank you. Good to be here, Jim.
Pat, let me start with Isabel just a second. Isabel, what is the HRC exactly, and what is the mission?
So the HRC is the Historic Resource Commission, and they are a group of elected officials from our community, and their goal is to focus on preservation in the city and in the county. We focus on local historic districts and local historic landmarks, making sure they're preserved and no exterior work is like anything crazy that would damage the character of the home.
Right. Big responsibility. Pat, why is the HRC so important overall?
Well, the HRC, if you look at Winston-Salem, we're a very historic community. So having a group of folks that are really looking at what are the historic assets that we have in our community, how do we preserve those? We have historic communities, we have redevelopment projects that are going on, taking industrial areas like in our Innovations Park and turning them into residential and multi-use. We have assets like Old Salem or Bethabara Park, which are just huge assets for the community. So they're helping us preserve all those assets and to recognize those historical people from our past with markers and those types of things to make sure that we remember what happened.
Absolutely. And I love going to, I've been going to Old Salem for over 70 years. You go in there and get the sugar cake and all that. Why didn't you bring some sugar cake or something?
I know it's a favorite now.
You're not in charge of that. All right, speaking of what you're in charge of, let's talk about something, Isabel. I've been hearing about this thing called, or I think you emailed me about the Heritage Neighborhood Program. What is that?
So the Heritage Neighborhood Program was established so that we could recognize communities and neighborhoods that maybe aren't able to become historic districts, maybe because of urban renewal, highway construction. They're lacking a lot of historic homes that would make them available to be on the National Register of Historic Places. But we want to recognize these communities and what they've done for the city and for the county, and the members that have often started businesses, and we want to make sure we recognize these neighborhoods as well.
Can you give me an example of a criteria you might go by if I want to apply or something? Maybe give me an example of.
So you really just have to be over 50 years old.
Okay.
The neighborhood had to have been established 50 years or past or older. And it's usually best that you're not on the National Register of Historic Places, you're not a local historic district, but you have some history in your neighborhood that contributed to the city.
Now, how can I apply if I think, hey, my house I think might qualify for this? How do I apply, and is there a fee to apply?
There is no fee for the applicant. That's all on us to make sure we get those street toppers in your neighborhood.
Right.
You can go onto the Forsyth County Historic Resource Commission website, and if you go to the Historic Recognition Committee page, there is an application, an updated application. We try to make it easier so that more residents are able to apply.
Well, we didn't rehearse this or anything, but I was just curious because this is the first time you and I've met. How did you get such an interest in history and historic preservation? I mean, were you a history buff, or were you an architectural buff, or how did you come about it?
So I did history as my undergrad, and I knew, for more opportunities, I'd have to go to grad school, and I didn't want to be in the world of academics, so right. I found historic preservation. We in Asheville, where I'm from, have a historic neighborhood called Montford, beautiful Queen Anne homes, and that's what really got me interested. I heard there were regulations in these neighborhoods that protect the historic character, and I wanted to be a part of that.
The first time ever going to Old Salem, how old were you?
I think that was this year.
No, this year?
Yeah.
Well, that's historic. All right, Pat, before we leave, let me circle back on something. This is so much more than historic preservation. I mean, am I wrong to say it really ties into economic development and everything?
Well, absolutely. It's a vital asset for the community. And I should have mentioned up front, the Historic Resource Commission is actually countywide. So it's not just the city. Anywhere in Forsyth County that you have a historic district or neighborhood. And we have a lot of pride in those individual neighborhoods. And so that's part of the program, is to let people showcase that pride. But it is such a great economic development tool for us to have the Old Salems and the West End neighborhoods, the Washington Park neighborhoods. Those places are great.
Up on screen, cityofws.org. Please check that out. And you can also go, when you do a /1430, and that'll take you directly to the HRC. Thanks to both of you for doing this.
You're certainly welcome.
Appreciate it.